Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show. And today our subject is on alcoholism. Defined, habitual alcohol consumption to the point where it interferes with your daily, everyday responsibilities, or the performance of those responsibilities, and that would be motherhood, fatherhood, work, all those wonderful things, driving. All those things become interfered with, and people tend to get depressed. They focus on the alcohol. They'll sit around, lay around, and their focus of the life tends to be alcohol and their inability to live without alcohol. Now, what's interesting is there's a difference between alcoholism and alcohol abuse. Alcoholism is at its extreme, but in this country, I read the data since 1989, so it would last 21 years, alcohol abuse has doubled in the United States. And what that means is you can still work, you still do all your wonderful stuff, but every day you're down in that alcohol to calm you down, you're using it like a drug, basically. I know there are some benefits of certain wines and that type of thing, and that's something that you can address with your doctor, but I think daily consumption of alcohol is not something that would be recommended because once again you become reliant upon a drug. Alcohol is extremely hard on the liver, on the blood sugars, lots and lots of the vascular system. I could go through the multitudes of the list of why alcohol is not good on a daily basis. Causes, it's kind of interesting, 95% of alcoholics suffer from hypoglycemia, and they believe the majority of alcoholics were hypoglycemic before they ever started using alcohol. Remember, alcohol is a very, very digestible sugar, instantaneous, goes to the stomach, beep, brings the sugars back down again, goes down again. Need more alcohol, bring the sugars back up. So hypoglycemia, the sugars are very inconsistent, and so alcohol is a quick, easy way to get those sugars up to try and hopefully make you feel better. Obviously, there's other ways to treat hypoglycemia with diet, consistent protein and fats, but oftentimes, though, to get those sugar ups, people will turn to alcohol. Genetic tendency towards addiction, along with psychological problems, using it as a crutch to get by, peer pressure with a lot of the younger people to participate, and the sheer and utter liking the taste of it. And that is more or less a genetic issue as well, too. But as a general rule, most people drink to solve a problem or to help with blood sugars. That's what they're looking to do, to cover up something and to relieve pain, instead of dealing with the everyday issues of life. Men are 4 times more likely to become alcoholics when they substance abuse with alcohol. However, women are 50 to 100% more likely to suffer damage, physical damage caused by alcohol, more liver failures, those types of things, kidney failures involving with the usage, because there's a certain type of enzyme that's produced by the man's body that enables them to withstand alcohol a little bit better on the liver and the rest of the body that women don't have. So when we look at the side effects, now I just wrote a few things that happen when people tend to abuse alcohol. Obviously it's liver damage, and there is a point in time, the liver is a phenomenal regenerating organ, but there's a point in time where there is no point of return. And you can usually see the people that have liver failure or liver complications swell. And they get pretty big. They look like they get big old bellies. I had one lady come in and she looked like she was 9 months pregnant. So the liver is going to be the most affected by alcohol. Gastrointestinal and cardiovascular damage. I know everybody says that nice little glass of wine a day, but the alcohol, I really seriously wonder whether or not you lose the benefits out of the resveratrol in wine versus the effects of alcohol actually in the wine itself from a standpoint of blood sugars, cardiovascular, and gastrointestinal issues. Blood sugar diabetes. Remember, this is immediate sugar gratification, and you're going to be hitting your insulin receptor sites on a continual basis to where they're going to get very tired, and you're going to eventually, if you're an alcohol abuser or a continual user or an alcoholic, you will eventually end up with diabetes. Considering that you already have hypoglycemia, you can flip-flop right into diabetes very quickly and very easily. Neurological issues, and I'll go into some of the vitamins that alcohol depletes, that if you are even just an occasional drinker, should consider taking in order to aid and abet the loss of those particular vitamins and minerals while you're drinking. Birth defects and cancer. We know alcohol fetal syndrome is very, very prevalent in women who are heavy drinkers, and actually it can occur even if a woman is having a drink or two a day or drinks the last month of her gestation. It can turn into fetal alcohol syndrome. So babies end up with behavioral issues, unable to stabilize hormones. You don't drink at all if you're pregnant. Now there's some research also on cancer, because anytime you raise blood sugars, and alcohol is very, very acidic as well, it raises acidity pH levels. Cancer viruses, immune system compromises on people who tend to be or abuse alcohol. Neurological issues, once again, having to do with nutritional deficiencies, but alcohol is a poison on the brain, and it fries. Literally, neurologically will fry you with time. When we're talking about a diet, we need to look, and this goes for withdrawals, prevention, or if you are using alcohol on a continual basis. We need a diet high glycemic or low glycemic index, high amounts of proteins, fats, fibers to slow down the release of these sugars and carbohydrates. A lower carb, I'm not saying a no carb, but a lower carb diet with lots of fresh, wholesome, organic vegetables with maybe a little bit of fruit is recommended for people who have alcohol withdrawal or are alcoholics. 8 glasses of water a day. You cannot detox. You cannot. Now remember, when you drink alcohol, you pee a lot, and especially beer. It's going to induce kidney, boom, 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 start working, and you pee, and you're going to lose electrolytes and minerals and water sources. So obviously, you're going to have additional amounts of water and minerals to hold that water within you. Supplements, and you're looking at this list and you're thinking, yeah, you know, all this. Well, some of this is for if you're going to drink and there's nothing anybody can do to stop you, and some of this is for basically helping you with cravings and withdrawal symptoms. A good multiple vitamin, high in B vitamins. You got to have the basic nutrition, because once again, alcohol washes a lot of your B vitamins out. As demonstrated down here, alcohol washes out B1 actually, and so when you wash out B1, guess what happens? Your cognitive and memory functions decline. So if you're going to drink, you better be doing, I would suggest probably a B50 complex, 50 milligrams 3 times a day, and that would be whether you're drinking, alcoholism, whether you're alcohol abuse, or whether you're just even a couple of times a week drinker. Supports detoxification, the liver, the vascular system, all of those wonderful, important things. And from a withdrawal standpoint, it also helps you deal with the physiological stress that accompanies the withdrawal off of alcohol. Milk thistle. And this is medical. Everything I have on here are all researched, okay? There are studies to back this up. So any doc out there that wants to say, or anybody that wants to say there's not research to back this up, all they have to do is go online at a good research website, multiple ones I use, to find this information. Milk thistle supports liver detoxification and can help repair liver enzymes. A lot of people are recommended to take this when they're on a cholesterol-lowering drug, because cholesterol-lowering drugs are so hard on the liver. Well, alcohol is that times 10. And so milk thistle can help support those enzymes and liver detoxification, and the antioxidant properties of milk thistle are phenomenal. L-glutamine. Now, L-glutamine we use for a lot of different reasons, and I use it for people when I recommend for dieting to help with sugar cravings. I take it myself 2 grams a day because I'm slightly hypoglycemic. But 2 to 4 grams, so a half to a teaspoon mixed in some water, reduces cravings and the poisoning effects of alcohol. So a lot of people think, yeah, alcohol is a poison, okay? It is a poison. And so as a result, then you need things to counteract the effects of the poison or with the withdrawals. L-glutamine is supportive in that function. 5-HTP. When you withdraw from alcohol or alcoholism, you get depressed. You crave sugars, you get depressed. And there is research to back up 5-HTP or L-tryptophan helps with the depression and particularly during withdrawals, but it also can aid the sleeping patterns as well too. Helps with serotonin. In combination, we find with something called D-L-phenanylaline. That's used quite often anytime you withdraw from any type of drug in order to raise endorphin levels. And endorphin levels are those feel-good hormones we get when we exercise and we're eating right and our attitude is good. But it raises endorphins and therefore can reduce withdrawals. So that in combination from an amino acid standpoint with 5-HTP can be very helpful. Essential fatty acids. Now, most people wouldn't think in terms of alcohol blocking the metabolism of fats, but it does. And these fats stabilize hormones, they reduce inflammation, they keep cholesterol down. They're necessary for every bodily function. And you block them, your hormones and everything are going to be all out of whack. So, keeping a good combination of fish and borage oil, particularly fish oil that's high in EPA, can help with some of the depression as well too. But it will replace some of those fatty acids lost with alcohol consumption. There's a lot of things on here, and I could go much more than this, but these are the most important that I've found. L-tyrosine helps with withdrawals. It's an adrenaline precursor, and so you get those adrenaline rushes and all of that, and it can be calming and very soothing to the body, but it can also help with energy levels, particularly when the adrenal glands have been overtaxed, which is usually the case with alcohol consumption. One of the strongest antioxidants known to man in combination with vitamin C, N-acetylglucosamine, I'm going to get this right, N-acetylcysteine in combination or as a substitute for glutathione. And you can get glutathione sublingual under the tongue for immediate absorption. It's called reduced glutathione or NAC. And basically what it does is it is a very strong antioxidant on the liver, and it renders carcinogens or toxins in the liver in combination with vitamin C inert. So anytime you're exposed to pesticides or any other chemical exposure, or like I'm expanding my store and I'm going to be doing painting, that N-acetylcysteine is going to be in my blood with high dosages of vitamin C in order for my liver to take care of the toxins that I'm going to be to some extent inhaling, even though I'm using a chemical-free paint. It's still there. We talked about the Bs. Now, interestingly enough, too, there's a lot of research on B3, niacin. 100 to 200 milligrams a day reduces alcohol cravings. And you think niacin. Now, you can try the flesh-free niacin, not quite as effective, but if you can go with lower dosages, start with a 50, work your way up to 100 to 200 milligrams, it can help reduce alcohol cravings. I'm throwing it all at you because if it were me and I was in this position, I would do whatever I could to not have any alcohol cravings, to get off of alcohol, knowing what it does to the body and knowing what it does to families and your life. So, B5, pantothenic acid, reduces the effects of stress and detoxification. Now, this goes with all drugs and all medications. Oftentimes they deplete pantothenic acid. It's one of the key, well, actually all the Bs are very anti-stress, but hitting higher dosages of pantothenic acid in combination with the Bs, the B complex is very, very helpful. Chromium helps with the hypoglycemia of alcoholism along with the alcohol cravings. Anytime we can get the insulin receptors more receptive and reduce some of the sugar cravings, once again, trying to get off of this for people. Super green foods. Now we start off very, very slow on this. In combination with a good diet with lots of vegetables will aid the body in the detoxification process. And I probably would tend to recommend this later on down the road because initially when you're detoxing off of alcohol, it's not a pleasant experience because getting the sugar stable, getting the mood stable is difficult, whether it's alcoholism or alcohol abuse, because once again, it's become a life crutch. Now, there is an herb called angelica. And Angelica has some studies, and there are other drugs like that they use for smoking and other things. And there are some drugs out there as well that can help with alcohol cravings, but they have side effects. So I didn't even throw anything down about them. But Angelica can induce a distaste for alcohol. There's other formulas and other things as well, but the herb Angelica can be kind of helpful maybe in making you just absolutely not want it at all because it won't taste good. I'm going to conclude by saying, if you are a substance abuse user with alcohol, or you are an alcoholic, I know I have it in my family. I've never been drunk before and never used a drug. But I have family members and I have friends that have alcohol abuse or alcoholism. You got to get help. To think that you can do things on your own, no. You got there in the first place, and to think all of a sudden I can go off this and the magical land is there. So check out your AA. There's local sponsors. You can get numbers. There are people that will sponsor you and check in with you every single day to help keep you straight, who've been there and who've done that. Seek the help, find good counselors, get family support, church support, whatever you can get. Don't do this on your own, though, if you have alcoholism. Get the help that you need. Thank you. Next, we're going to be moving on to the fitness portion of our show. I'll be showing you an exercise that I've shown about about 6 weeks ago, that we use for reducing stress, but it can also help reduce the stress for people coming off of alcohol. Thank you. This portion of our show, and once again we're on the floor. I showed this exercise to you several weeks back, but I think it's really important since we're talking about alcoholism. This is probably the most soothing movement that I can show you that involves actually no movement at all. And what it is, it's grabbing the bundle of nerves underneath the neck. And what you do, and this is known in medicine practice called Shinjin-jitsu. What you're doing, it's actually should say an energy practice. You put your hands, Greg, slightly lift your head, underneath the person, and you grab, see where my fingers are here? We're going to grab underneath there, right at the base of the skull, and we're just going to kind of hold it. And sometimes when you hold that area, there's huge amounts of bundles of nerves under there. For some reason, don't ask me why, there's not always an explanation to everything out there that works. It settles and calms people down. So as you're having either a son, a daughter, mother, father, friend that's having a lot of anxiety, tell them to get on the floor, lay down, get underneath them, and just grab this bundle of nerves in a very loving, kind fashion, and get them to calm down a little bit. And you only have to hold it maybe for like 2 to 5 minutes. Just hold it there. They will notice a difference. Withdrawing, once again, from alcohol is a very difficult thing, and any way you can ease that burden, go for it. Next, we're going to be moving on to the research portion of our show. Thank you very much. If we can get Greg up. Hi, welcome to the research portion of our show. And with us today, Ralph Turchiano with his wealth of knowledge. Ralph?
Thank you for the intro. Well, here's a science headline you don't hear every day. And don't take it the wrong way. Mouth breathing can cause major health problems. Yes, mouth breathing. Now, that's not necessarily what they anticipate as far as people breathing are eventually going to run into medical issues. What they are saying is that basically children and adults who frequently have no choice but to breathe through their mouth are prone to certain issues. Now, this came out of the Academy of General Dentistry and also published in the January-February 2010 issue of General Dentistry. What they said is this: children who frequently, especially when having to go to sleep and things along those lines, tend to breathe through their mouth more often than not. Over time, children whose mouth breathing goes untreated can suffer certain things like abnormal facial and dental development, long, narrow faces, gummy smiles, gingivitis, and crooked teeth. Now, the more interesting part about that, outside the dental issues, is this, and this is Dr. Jefferson from the study. Many of these children are misdiagnosed with attention deficit disorder and or hyperactivity. The reason being is because the mouth breathing can cause poor oxygen concentrations in the bloodstream, which can cause high blood pressure, heart problems, sleep apnea, and other medical issues. Children also mouth breathe typically do not sleep well, causing them to be tired the entire day, making them very difficult, or I should say, becoming unable to concentrate and do their academics properly. So, the reason it's important I bring it up, even though it sounds more of a dentistry issue, is because in order to keep the children healthy and things like that, it should be something you look at, especially since there's simple tools and appliances that they can actually use in dentistry to expand those sinus and nasal passageways, to make it easier for children to breathe through their nose and get more oxygen in. Real interesting, real simple thing. It's worth checking out before throwing a kid on medication or drugs. Now, another thing that came out of the medical research arena, which I find quite interesting. It may not sound interesting to most of you, but for type 1 diabetics, it does. The headline shows, researchers show some cells in the pancreas can spontaneously change into insulin-producing cells. And this came out of the University of Geneva. Now, without getting too detailed, what they did was this. They took animals. Then there's two groups of cells in the pancreas, alpha and beta. Beta are the insulin. Autoimmune diseases rarely ever attack alpha cells, which produce a hormone called glucagon. What they did was they simply took all the beta cells off the pancreas and destroyed them, or at least 99% of them. An amazing thing occurred shortly after that. After they eliminated all the beta cells, including the defective beta cells, the alpha cells in the pancreas changed immediately into beta cells, almost spontaneously. They started producing beta cells. The animals which basically had the beta cells destroyed basically lost all need for any sort of insulin supplementation on top of that, because the pancreas returned to normal. Now, it's not that easy. You still got to figure out why the beta cells are being attacked by the immune system. But it's something which is amazing as far as hope for type 1 diabetics, especially since it's growing. This is what they said, quote unquote. Basically, according to Dr. Andrew Rakeman, program manager of the beta cell therapies, it demonstrated that alpha to beta cell reprogram could be natural and spontaneous. We're spending tons of money right now trying to genetically engineer new beta cells, when in reality, they don't know why. The answer's there, and the body can do it on its own. It's real curious. Now, some things you don't want the body to have to deal with on its own. 3 common chemicals which affect female development. This came out of Mount Sinai School of Medicine. These chemicals, phenols, phthalates, and synthetic phytoestrogens. These chemicals you find in your fragrance type items, shampoo, plastics, anything along those lines, medicines, even some vitamins and nutritional supplements that are time released. They'll actually use phytoestrogens in that process to time release them. But they said, quote unquote, they showed these chemicals can cause young girls to hit puberty way before their time, leaving them prone to weight gain, cancer, you name it, just really way too early. The worst of these chemicals, of course, were phthalates, P-H-T-H-A-L-A-T-E-S. And this is a simple thing to avoid. If you have a young girl, 5, 6, actually I would say even a young boy, but if you have a young girl especially, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age, or just a newborn, try to avoid fragrant type items and soaps, because these phthalates were the ones, especially in the lotions and shampoos, were the ones that were related directly to earlier breast and pubic hair development. Good thing to try to stay with, simple. You don't have to take a vitamin or supplement, just buy things which at least try to buy things at least fragrance free. After that, out of Canada, did the seasonal flu vaccination increase the risk of infection from the pandemic H1N1 flu? Well, the bottom line answer is yes. How much did it increase your risk of getting swine flu if you were vaccinated against the regular flu? Well, reality, about 68%. In some areas, again, the numbers can be usually between 1.4 and 1.5 times. They said it is confirmed. So it's not in question. Now, It does bring the attention that you have to look at the biological implications of what a pandemic may be. What you may be doing to protect someone against a normal flu season may leave them very prone to something that may come out of nowhere. And the irony is, again, this did not happen among people that were not vaccinated. If you were vaccinated against the flu, you were 68% more likely to catch the swine flu than a person that was not vaccinated at all. Now, of course, their answer was basically maybe you should take the swine flu shot itself. But keep in mind, if you remember earlier shows, if you did the flu shot and the swine flu shot, only one of those tend to take hold. So in reality, you got to determine what's your priority. A mild inconvenience or actually something that could come around the corner and just take you for a ride. Now for those that basically don't like to eat, or people that are basically, I should say, overeating and trying to watch your diet, there's a real simple way you can reduce your calorie consumption by about 18%. And it's something your ancestors and your parents from long ago probably did before we got really involved in the cereal type wheat flour culture. Eggs. They found out when people were served eggs for breakfast in the morning, they reduced the caloric consumption down 18% the rest of the day. Primary reason, the quality of the protein. You're talking close to 1/5 elimination of the calories you crave the entire day just because you had protein in the morning for breakfast. Wow. Remember the time you used to be bacon and eggs for breakfast? Then they told that was bad for us, which it can be to some extent. And we all went to Cookie Crisp, Captain Crunch, and Fruit Loops. Well, think about that. Just a simple change. Do what your grandparents used to do. Do what the farmers used to do. They did work all day long. They weren't the French toast generation. And now one of my favorite characters in the mafia of pharmaceutical drugs, Pfizer. Pfizer pulled a fast one. There's no doubt about it. And there's no holding any punches about it. They hid information in regards to a certain drug called Neurontin. Canada recently sued them through Kaiser. And of course, they got a $142 million fine against them for what? Drug fraud. Well, this drug Neurontin, which I've seen a ton of people on, became very popular for quite some time. Children, adults, anybody. Prescribed from everything for pain, migraines, and bipolar disorder. There's only one problem with that. It didn't work for any of them. In fact, I should say, take that back. They said it maybe worked in 1 in 8 cases, or 1 in 6 maybe in those cases. But the problem was the side effects. For 1 in 8 people that were taking Neurontin, generally they were exposed to what's called chronic neurotoxicity, or poisoning in the brain. Didn't Pfizer know about this? Of course they did. They hid the unpublished trials from the public. And guess what? They made billions off this medication. We can find them day in and day out. It'd be nothing compared about the money they made off of this. Well, that's it, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ralph. We appreciate it. Once again, do your research. Get the help you need. Thank you very much for joining our show.